Thank you, Jim. And I'm here to talk about something informative today. But first, I want to say thank you all for being here. I hope this summer that you were able to get some rest, relax, and renew, and really excited as I am for the start of this new school year. One of the initiatives that we have going on this fall will be the renewal of our non-homestead millage, and I'm just going to take a little bit of time to talk a little bit about that so that you're informed with our information. So, what is the non-homestead renewal? It is a levy or a tax on 18 mills on non-homestead or second homes, and it does not levy any tax on primary residences in the Huron Valley schools. Why do we need this millage? Proposal A, which was part of our funding structure that was determined back in the 1994-95 school year, assumes that all schools levy an 18 mills non-homestead millage in order to receive the full state foundation allowance that's determined annually by our legislators. This is just a diagram of how the process works, trying to simplify it a little bit, but you have down at the lower left-hand side a home, and if you are a taxpayer here in the home, you have 6 mills that is levied and goes to the state, and then if you have commercial property or a business owner, you have 6 mills plus the 18 mills that is levied, and that goes to the state. That collection is collected, and then based on the collections, the legislator determines how much funding will be annually given to school districts to fund public education, and that is determined by our foundation allowance. So how much revenue does this non-homestead millage generate? Well, what you can see here, this is our revenues diagrammed in the pie chart, and all of the blue area that you see there is the foundation allowance, and that carve-out piece of $9 million represents the non-homestead millage. So that represents over 10% of our annual operating budget. And as you can see too, other than special education millage, which is dedicated for special education services, the majority of the money coming in to operate our schools on an annual basis is determined by that foundation allowance. Again, that was put together back in 1994-95, the way schools would be funded, and we're not allowed to go out and generate other revenue for operations. This is how public education is funded in Michigan. This is just another way to look at that. So you had the pie chart, but this also shows it through numbers. And you can see the foundation allowance is determined by the number of students that we educate on an annual basis. In this instance, we're anticipating about 9,765 students. Multiply that by the annual foundation allowance, and that gives you your revenue of about $68 million, of which a little over $9 million is represented from this non-homestead millage. And you can see our total projected revenue for the upcoming year is a little under $80 million, so it is over 10% of our budget on an annual basis. This slide, some of you have seen over the years. We've used it to kind of indicate where our foundation allowance ranks within the 28 public schools within the county of Oakland. And one of the things that I want to point out, because it may look a little different than what you've seen in the past, Huron Valley Schools is actually the lowest funded in the county out of 28. So we are actually 28 out of 28 now in the county. And if you've seen this in the past, we used to say we were 24 out of 28 in funding, but as of this year, the legislator kind of brought up the base, and now we share the bottom with 4 other districts in Oakland County. So on an annual basis, our foundation allowance is set for next year of $6,966 per pupil. And if you look way up the top, you can see that there are some districts that make almost double that at almost $12,000 per pupil. Now, I'm not here to talk about the inequities of funding right now, but that is something that was a part of Proposal A. It was the way we were funded back in 1994, and so it hasn't changed through all those years, and we still kind of lower funded. And even if you look at the county average is over 8,000 per pupil. So that's a challenge for us. It's something that we've had to wrestle with for a long time, but I'm proud to say what we're able to do and educate our students and be able to have strong scores educationally really says a lot of the hard work that you do every day, and we really appreciate it. But it is a challenge. This is another way to look at that diagram and that difference. And so the top bar graph shows Huron Valley Foundation of about $69 million. And you can see that the yellow bar represents the portion that would be the non-homestead millage. The state average is a little over $73 million, and the difference there is $4 million. So even on a state average, we educate our students at about $4 million annually less than the state average. But when you even look at that at the Oakland County average, which is the lower bar here of about $82 million, you can see on an annual basis that our district educates and operates for under almost $13 million annually less than the Oakland County average, and that's not the top, that's the average. So it's just another thing to point out how important this non-homestead millage is, but also how the challenges that we face in terms of funding. This particular slide shows the annual foundation allowance for the last 10 years. The last time we went out for the renewal of the non-homestead millage was in 2002-2003 school year. And you can see back then we were receiving about $6,800 per pupil. Well, today we're receiving just a little bit more than that of $1,666 per pupil. And what's interesting to note is our level is actually lower than the 2005-2006 school year. Now what that shows is how challenging economically it's been to fund public education in Michigan. We've struggled through a lot of tough times, but we've had to make a lot of difficult decisions to try to balance the budget. But I think when you're talking to people and people feel that there's a lot of money potentially there for public education, if you just let people know that we're funded less than we were back in 2005, 2006, it says a lot. We have been very mindful of our funding. And you can see in that middle column there that one of the biggest challenges was the 2011-12 school year when we actually were reduced by $300 per pupil. So let's talk about this millage that will be on the ballot on November 6th. This is just a summary, but to take away from this, it is a renewal, and that's very important. This is not a new tax, and it's not a tax for homeowners, but it is a renewal, and it's a tax that has been around since the 1994-95 school year, and it's assumed that all school districts levy this non-homestead 18 mills. It is exempting principal residents, and the ballot proposal will be for 18 mills for 10 years. And there are a couple other districts that will be also having this on the ballot, Holly Schools and Waterford Schools. So we are not the only ones that will have this non-homestead ballot language out there in November. This is the actual ballot language, and this is something that we'll be going around and providing information on informational cards. Because it's such a long ballot language, we want people to be informed when they're in the voting booth, because we know it's going to be a lot of things that will be on that November ballot, notwithstanding the presidential election. So there'll be a lot of other things there. We want people to know before they go into the booth, how they feel that they want to vote, that they are informed and have the facts. It is a renewal. Over there on the far left-hand side, it does say from 2013 to 2022, so it'll be for 10 years. Down here at the bottom, and then the 10 years over here on the right, and then down here at the bottom, it does indicate how much money would be levied, and we're anticipating a little over $9 million annually in the first year. So we do want people to be informed what this is, and we do want people, once they've voted for kind of their top choices, that they go all the way down to the ballot and make sure that they vote for this particular proposal, because sometimes it can seem so much you just want to get in and get out, but it's important that everybody vote. And why it's important for everybody to vote, this is just a little factual information here. The last time we would have gone out for a millage, which is special revenues that are dedicated either for our buses or technology or for our capital improvements, was in 2009. And you can see about 9,000 people voted in that November 2009 election. However, in 2008, the last time we had a presidential election, there were actually 26,000 ballots that were distributed, and of those, almost 19,000 people voted. So we know it's very important, given that this is a presidential election, that we inform everybody in the community, over 26,000 people in the community, so that they're informed and they can make an accurate decision on how they vote. And you can see then the gubernatorial as well. But knowing that this is a presidential election, we want everybody to be informed, so when you're talking with people, you can help inform them as well. Again, the key message to take away is that this is no tax for property owners of primary residences, and it's no tax increase for a business. So if someone has a business and they wonder, well, what will that cost be? Say it's no different than what it's been in the past years. I mean, obviously taxable values can change, but you've been levied this tax since 1994. It's no different, so it shouldn't change any change of your business operations. And that's something important for people to understand.